the rehearsal I'm doing is it's like you know what sense it's in the Anfield. It's probably gonna start around 5. And 45.
Wow.
And then the set is about a half hour. So even listening to it on the way straight through, I can listen to everything twice. That's it. But thankfully, like I said, I'm old. They gonna be there. They gonna tell me what they need to get it done.
We're taking some rehearsal. It's like, all right, figure it out. Do it.
But I know the joints though. It's just like knowing it and retaining it is just big. It's like learning it, knowing it means you can hear the whole joint in your head, like top to bottom.
That's when you come in here. It's like,
Top to bottom, like I know it as it's coming up, but it's just like I feel like it's a blank slate going like that, and I feel it right before the changes.
so if I can listen to it and play it,
Exactly. Yo, I wish we could, if it was ever said that we could run it in real time while the song's in our ears, bro, that would be crazy. It's like, nah, get out with me, bro. I need a program, bro. But now that come up here and do something, so we can add it to the resume officially. I don't care if it's a note. It's right on the resume. Just get on the mic. Let me hit that note.
if he can sing the song,
That's it. You start to feel that joy. Get on it. Little okay. I'm adding you to the resume.
Test 1 2. Check 1 2. Test 1 2.
Got video and
Check 1 2. Test 1 2. You good? I'll do the other one.
But it's crazy. Sometimes I do be wondering what count and what don't. Because the thing is, the essence of the resume.
Test 1 2. Check 1 2. Okay, good.
Like it was an experience I had, and it was an experience.
Test 1 2. Vocal mic. You want me to do them all? Okay.
For that person, you feel me? So, I don't know.
Check 1 2. Test 1 2. Okay, next one.
But I feel like if that person was
Test 1 2. Check 1 2.
and they didn't have to turn around and be like,
Test 1 2.
it count, right? I feel like it count. It should. I think it should count. Because as long as you ain't say toured with, or you just say played with, that's valid. Yeah. Both definitely. But that's valid. I'm adding that. Not that anybody I don't really try and work for care about that shit. But whatever. It's another exactly. That's a whole like, and the type of people they is too. Like they said, they turned their pastor down because he was trying to change our budget. They was like, nah. They was like, nah, you gotta go. Like I was like, geez, yo, they rock with us, bro. They had a pastor they wanted to get, and the first thing he said, we couldn't do this. First, they was like, no, thank you. They was like, no, thank you. I was like, wow. I was like, that's solid though. They ain't playing with because the people, a lot of them been there for years. I think I'm the newest guy here. And Aaron was here for about 7, 8 years. And then dude on drums. Dude on drums for about 20 years. Trevor is drummer. Doug been there when he took guitar player. So it's just like they part of the church. I don't even know which one of y'all. Which one is the slow?
Not with the format?
Bro, listen. Here's because I'll try it. I thought we was gonna read and let him take the sermon. You know what I'm saying? Nah, son, we sing. So, no, son. Granted, we got it, bro. This whole joint over at 3:35.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're going to ask for your grace for 5 more minutes before we get started. Is that okay? It's just 5 more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is that good? Was this as good as the singing?
Yeah, it was excellent. It was excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, cool. So the pedagogy of this song, of the whole approach and stuff. That's what I'm just trying to go between. No problem.
Just, sort of who you are, where you're from, that kind of stuff. But I'll ask you questions.
Okay, cool. I'll flow with you. No problem.
Okay. And if you want to, you can unmask it.
Okay.
I got it. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, I think you can do better than that. Good afternoon, everybody. Most of you know me. I'm Braxton Shelley. I teach here in the Div School and downtown the Department of Music and in the ISM also. And I'm director of the Program of Music in the Black Church. And I'm so glad to see all of you here for this wonderful conversation with one of the most gifted, inventive, prolific musicians, composers, producers, artists, and creatives of our time, Donald Lawrence. Since we didn't do the big fanfare, let's give him a round of applause. So we're going to have a conversation punctuated by and preceded by performances of some of the amazing music that we have been given through this instrument. And so we'll start there, and then we'll pick up our conversation in just a couple of minutes after Mr. Delka Prescott leads us in When the Saints Go to Worship.
When the saints go to worship, that's when the King of Kings will come in. When the saints go up in praise, that's when the Spirit shall inhabit this place. When the saints go up on one accord and they bless the Lord, then the King, strong and mighty, oh, the King, mighty in battle, yes, the King of glory he shall come in. When the saints go to worship, that's when deliverance will take place. When the saints go up in praise, all of Satan's power will be erased. Every trap that the enemy set, it can't work. No, it won't work. Then the King, who is strong and mighty, oh, the King, mighty in battle, and the King of glory shall come in. We welcome you in. We welcome you in. You're the King and you're invited to come in. sanctuary. Into this tabernacle. You're the King, and you're invited to come in.
Nadelka's finishing her Master of Divinity here, and she's also a professional musician. This song, When the Saints Goes to Worship, I took Privilege. It's my favorite Donald Lawrence tune, so I said we're going to start with that song. I think in a lot of ways it reveals a lot of the things I love about your music. I think people respond to. On the one hand, it's a very clearly liturgically oriented song, right? It has a place in the worship service, but it's also about what happens, about why folks gather, about why people pack sanctuaries or even now Zoom church or however they can come together. What is at stake? What's available when the saints go to worship? Then also just at the level of music, the harmonies, the, in and out, are we gonna feel like we're in minor? Are we going towards major? That sense of musical mystery pulls you into the worship as I understand it. I wonder if you would talk at all about when that song came to you, how it fits into your catalog, and how you relate to it yourself as a musician, as a believer.
Okay, first of all, hello everyone. How are you? I'm so honored to be here and to see everyone. It's great. What was her name again? What's her name?
Nadelka?
The singer, yeah.
Nadelka.
Nadelka, very nice, Nadelka. Thank you so much. Great voice, great voice. Thank you. One more time for Nadelka. Okay, so when the saints go to worship, I'll talk about it from two perspectives, from the spiritual and worship perspective, and then just from the musicality of it and what I was thinking. The spiritual side of it is this. It's a story. And I built that song around, if you know anything about my career, it's really been laced, even without trying, throughout my entire, I would say, journey and learning myself as a musician and more so as a songwriter. It's always been about storytelling. So that song is really based on the story of Jehoshaphat and how he was just so afraid of a battle that he was going to fight. And when he went to God, kind of timid and in fear, God told him that the battle was not his, but it was the Lord's. So he didn't get weapons, he just got a bunch of singers. Now see, I'm imaginative. So if you really know me, think about my music and use your imagination. So in my mind, I just say, oh wow, he didn't go get weapons, he just got a bunch of singers together and they just marched and sang. And because of the place and the power of what happened when they did that, God sent like ambushments, and the enemy got confused and thought they were fighting their enemy, but they were fighting themselves. And when he got there, the battle was won. So when it says, when the saints go to worship, and it tells that story, that's what I'm envisioning. So some people marching into battle without any weapons, but their weapon is their worship. And what it accomplished by being authentic worship. So that's the story in that song. And so I wanted to remind people that their worship had power. And then if it's authentic and if you find your place in that, when you come out of it, anything that you thought was going to be a problem, the problem has defeated itself. And that's the place of that song. So when the saints go to worship, that's when the King of Kings will come. When the saints go up and praise, all Satan's traps and powers are raised. Every trap the enemy set can't work, won't work when the king, oh, the king, yea, the king of glory shall come in. That's where that line goes. So when the girl that sang that song, I started working with her when she was like in the 9th grade. She was somebody, there's a kid in the community that I grew up in, and I started training her. I trained her. She was a great singer, but I thought she showed up better. She sang more like she was singing musical theater, even though she was really more of a gospel singer. And most people think she's a soprano. She's an alto. She wasn't a soprano at all. She's an incredible alto. But I taught her how to sing that song, where to finesse it, to rely on the voice, but to more so rely on the story. Because for all of you vocalists, if you understand the story, it will give you some room to not even be in the best voice all the time. But most singers sing in concert and not in story. Those are two different things. You can either sing in concert or you can sing in story. Take it from one who knows, sing in story first. And then when you add concert, it just takes us to the next level. But if you start in concert, eventually we're gonna be with you, but we've just heard your voice. We haven't heard the story. It's very important for musicians and vocalists and writers and creatives to give the story. Songwriting is all about storytelling. And I'm always on my singers. I'm always on singers all the time. And this is not anything that people know automatically. You have to be with somebody to coach you to do that, to sing it in story. Whenever a pastor or anybody's teaching you, they don't close you out of the dialogue that they're trying to have. But singers, and I stay on my singers all the time, we tend to go in and sing. We don't always pull you into the dialogue. So I hope that you singers and people, and musicians too, even when you play, you can play in story. But if you're all about showing what you got, then you forget about the story. All you think about is, listen to my great chord. But does your chord accompany the story like it was a score in a movie? You understand what I'm saying? I tell musicians, my musicians, don't play like musicians, play like producers. Because if you play like a producer, you know when you need to do this and when you don't, and when you're out of the way of the vocalist, when you're out of the way, versus just concentrating on your, and my musicians tell me to this day, that was the best lesson I could have ever taught them. It's got them so many gigs because they think about the full picture and not just their solo picture, you know? So I'm saying that with this song, I wrote it in story, I get them to sing it in story, and that's the story. The story is about Jehoshaphat, imagining it. Imagine it in your own kind of way, and by the time you imagine it so big, you will bring the whole room into what you are imagining. You can be a singer, and the big room of 10,000 people can take you to their table, or you can have an imagination so big that all 10,000 people come to your table. And that's the difference of an audience intimidating you and you swamping in an audience. You can be one person, but if you got a big imagination, the room shrinks. But if you don't, the room is bigger than you, and that's when you're gonna be your most nervous. So I push everybody, make the room come to your table. This is your moment on stage to sing and to tell the story. If you got that story in you, you won't be worried about anything. It'll just go there. And the message will go in. It'll be about the message. Then the gift that you have that's amazing, that just adds gravy to the rest of it. Like, you got me in a story now. Now all of a sudden, your voice just did something I wasn't expecting. Then, oh, we're there. That's kind of the pedagogy around that song, how I approached it, how I taught it to the vocalist, but also how I taught it to the group. I don't know if you guys know the vocal part too. Do we have choir members in here? Some singers in here? We got singers in here? Choirs people in here? Y'all know the chorus? Can y'all sing the chorus real quick from wherever you are? Can y'all just play it? Just piano, for me, just piano and hi-hat. Piano and hi-hat, and hi-hat like every other. Give them a chord for it. You can play a little bit too with them. E minor chord, E flat minor, yeah. When the Saints, let me see what we got in here. Go. Right. time of that. And next part. Say. Okay, I'm just gonna stop right there. I'm just gonna stop right there and I'm gonna show you what I mean. So when you go, I just turned y'all into a choir real quick, right? That's what I mean, shrink the room. So what I'm gonna have y'all do, when the saints go to worship, that's when, that first verse, and I'm gonna show you what I mean. If I was teaching Tri-City, this is what I would tell them. When the saints, put air on the word saints so we feel the sacredness of that word. So we go, when the saints, even in that harmony, put the air in front of that. So now all of a sudden, saints takes a different thing. You just didn't sing through the word, right? That gave it a different picture. You understand what I'm saying? As a singer, take every word and make every it and but count. You can't do that if you're riffing through that, because now you're thinking about the riff and not the word. You understand what I'm saying? And it's not that I don't want the riff, but I want you to do the story first. You understand what I'm saying? It's gonna change it a whole lot. You understand what I'm saying? So now I want y'all to go, when the, sing saints, but sing with air. Take the texture away. So it'll be like this, when the saints, watch what happens, and go. When the saints, do it again. When the saints, do it again. When the saints, do it again. Pull somebody over here, pull your texture back even more, and go. When the saints. Okay, now, if we were going to do that, and you was telling me this picture, when the sacred on saints, then go, push me forward on go. So, when the saints go to, see what I just did? And go. When the saints go to worship. You see the story that I just painted right there? You see the story that I just painted? You have to take time, paint the picture, tell the story. So now I stopped thinking so much about your notes. You pulled me into a story. So my approach to music, especially to all up-tempo and ballads, but especially to ballads, is to set my story up. Come here, I want you to sing the first line for me again. What's the name again? I'm sorry. It's a unique name, I can't remember it. Nadelka. Spell it for me. Oh, you don't have to be scared. You don't have to be scared. You got a great voice. This is called vocal coaching. It's the singing actor. I had a great class on that, and I've watched some of my heroes like Sondheim do this. But I had a great class on this from a guy that taught Carol Burnett, and I'm really good at it as well. So I want you to sing those first lines again, like when the saints go to worship, that's when the king. No, don't put it in the mic in there because that's a crush. Is this one open? Is this one on? Is this on? Yeah, just stand in front of it and sing it. And then I'm gonna move on. But I wanna make sure you guys get this so that y'all walk away from this with this, all right? So sing the first three lines, go.
When the saints
Keep on.
go to worship, that's when the King of Kings will come in.
That's all I want, just that line. Okay, I want you to sing that again. When the, put air on saints, go to worship. Don't let the notation move on worship, just one note on worship. Go to worship. Stay there. On that's, the word that's, air only. So it's gonna be this. When the saints go to worship, that's when, you see what I just did on that? And when came into notation? Do it just like this, when the saints go.
When the saints
Good.
go to worship,
Air.
that's when the King of Kings will come in.
Okay, on the word that's, let me hear you go, that's. Do it just like that. So, when the saints go to worship, that's when, and do that. Go.
When the saints,
You good. Don't worry about that. Go.
when the saints go to worship, that's when the King of Kings will come in.
Okay, now, that's good. Hold on to that. Stay there. Now, what I don't see in your eyes is I don't see story. I see you thinking about notes. Well, watch me. I see you thinking about notes. Stand in front of me. Look at me. Look at me. Watch this. I got this room, right? And if I stand here and I plant myself, and I'm right here, and I'm getting ready to take everybody in the whole room on the journey, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go. When the saints go to worship, that's when, you see how I pulled the attention to the room? But you see my story starting to happen in my eyes. You can't have a conversation with people if your first word is with your eyes closed. Because now you're not talking to me, you went inside. Your instrument is phenomenal. Tell a story, and you're gonna even get a different kind of response for every note you sing because you're not holding it in. Let me see the story, let me go. When the saints, all of a sudden, you've taken me like somewhere. And when you see the story, they'll see it. If you don't see the story, the people listening to you ain't gonna see it. Story. And then let the instrument do the rest of it. That makes sense? Yes. Can you do that for me real quick? I don't know. Well, just try it. Just try it. See the story. You got an amazing instrument. You got an amazing instrument. This is not about your instrument not being good. I'm just teaching you another way to use it. All right? Look, set the story. Breathe and set the story. And go. Then we move on. Just give it a chord, please. Take your time. Plant yourself, Lord. Always plant yourself. Don't close your eyes. If you want to find your center, look dead center and set the room up. See the story. Like, see the journey. Like, imagine yourself out, getting ready to walk somewhere into a big field. Let me see all that in your eyes. And start the story thinking about that.
When the saints go to worship, that's when the King of Kings will come in.
Oh, do it again. Same thing.
When the saints go to worship, that's when the King of Kings will.
You're good. You started thinking again. You see what I'm saying? You started thinking. Don't worry about that. I'm trying to get the story. Don't worry about that. So, that's good. One other thing. When the saints go to worship, that's when the King. That's a great thought. So it should almost make a half smile come. When the King should make a happy thought come. Gospel singers, we sing with such angry faces all the time. It's amazing that gospel means good news, but you're always singing angry. Y'all ever thought about that? I always say, get rid of the angry face. I know that means you're really getting it, but get rid of the angry face, okay? Do it one more time. Think about that line when you get there. Set me up and then smile. That's when. And go.
When the saints go to worship, that's when the King of Kings will come in.
You see the difference? I'm good. That's a little bit of pedagogy from Donald Lawrence right there. There you go. That's good. That was excellent. You see the difference? That's your homework. Don't ever sing a song without getting in the mirror, in home, in the bathroom. Take every word, every punctuation, and own it. Don't just get through it. To get through the meat of your singing. It's going to change the way everyone listens to you. The instrument is there. This is not your, but you got the voice. That's there. Change the way you deliver. That makes sense? Y'all give her one hand. Thank you so much. I know I put you on the spot, but you're excellent. You really are.
I was driving in my car in 2019, and I almost drove the car off the road. That was because Jehovah Sabaoth came on the radio for the first time. And, you know, I'm a preacher nerd, and I was struck by the phrase, the God who governs angel armies. It blew me away because of the story. You know, we read the King James, the Lord of hosts. And I recalled reading Eugene Peterson's paraphrase. And that's where he says, whenever it says the Lord of hosts in the King James, Eugene says, the God of angel armies. And I was like, wow. And the thing about, I guess, your music and the music of other folks at your level is that it's almost like that's how that's supposed to sound, right? It's like the scripture was waiting on this song to give it a sort of audible presentation. I wonder if you would talk about Jehovah Sabaoth at all. It's a song I hope you'll do tomorrow.
We didn't plan it, but Britt will be here.
All right, that's good. But that song, how it, you know, that you were just dealing with sort of the coaching aspect of it, but clearly there's a lot of study behind, you know, your lyrics and the way you turn those lyrics into music. How did you come up with that?
Well, it's probably a number of things. It's never intentional. It's what speaks to me. I tell everybody, I'm just really a true creative, y'all. I'm that oddball that it's never a formula. It's what talks to me and talks back. It's just never been like, oh, let me see if I can write a hit. It's always been what speaks to me. I will have to say that growing up, I've always liked the odd stuff. I've always liked unique titles. When I was a kid, I was just always go through albums, and that was albums. I know y'all don't know what that is. Well, I guess y'all know now because they're starting to play them again, and people starting to collect them. But when I was playing them, they weren't collectible. That's all you had to, you know. Anyway, I remember even as a kid, I would go through all the albums and look for the most unique titles, and that would be the first song I go play to see what they were saying. So for me, titles have always spoke to me. I write based on a title. The title gets me going into the story. Jehovah Sabaoth, that's that name, then I studied it, and I studied that it is Lord of hosts, or God who governs angel armies. So I was like, okay, the God who is the lieutenant of the angels' armies has sent my own camp of army around me to protect me when I'm afraid. So I started with that. And it just felt like it needed to be kind of hymnal, but still go somewhere at the end because we're talking army. So therefore, the front of it is hymnal. The end kind of has a little military thing happening because that's what it felt like it should do. So that's the story. That's the underscore. And if you start, those of you who are in music, and maybe have a film scoring thing in your head, you have to look at pictures. And make sure that the music matches the picture. So if I see the picture of the song in my head, I will know which way the music needs to go at a certain point with the lyric. So for me, I'm not afraid, all is well, felt like going into battle and that I had my army with me. So therefore, that's why the cadence of that changes versus the front of it needed to be a little bit more what I call hymnal and choral, and that's kind of why I made it 4-part and I made it sound like that. But it's how the story spoke to me. Now, I really want to inspire and really push all of you creative. I think we have some of the most creative people in this particular time in music, but because of the radio and charts, it makes people go more monolithic and want to follow one formula, and you're not artistic anymore. When I was growing up, it was the best to be not like anybody, you know, but when you follow a monolithic format, it kind of imprisons true creativity. So I've been telling everybody, you guys are so good. Don't let anybody make you feel the length of your art should just be right here. Sometimes you just have to take the risk and do something odd that nobody is doing. It may work or it may not, but the fact that you did it continues to make you to be your own unique creative. So for me, again, the story was to how this song impacted me. I didn't know, I wrote the song probably in like 2018. I never had an idea we were gonna go into a pandemic. I didn't know that this was gonna be a time when we were gonna be fearing for so many things, you know. It was just what I heard and felt at that moment and how I felt it should be. I also think when you listen like that too, you end up writing things that you didn't know you need and you need it later on, you know. I didn't sit around and say, let me write a hit. I heard what I needed to write and spoke it, and then it fixes a need. Anybody that's successful in business, they learn how to fix needs. They don't fix things that's already fixed. They fix things that need to be fixed that people haven't. So I think when you find your creativity that way and you write from that place and you create from that place, you will end up with something that nobody knew they needed, but they needed it, and then that becomes a hit. You didn't try to write a hit then, you just had something that everybody needed at a certain point in time.
Another of my favorite titles is really audacious. It's just God. And that's the song Shania McDonald is going to sing for us now.
Okay, yeah, I love the song.
Oh Thou?
Yeah, I love this
Yes.
song.
Those first two words, they summon, you know, a rich tradition of hymns and all kinds of songs you can imagine what's coming next, right? But it's really profound. This song is just called God, right?
Yeah.
What God is to me,
Got you.
what God has been, will be, always is. So anyway, God, Shania McDonald.
This feels like a pop quiz. O thou who knowest my beginning, thou who created the plan, who orchestrated my life's journey, God, you are my God. God of decisions, creator of answers, thou who ordained my way. Through my transition, held my position, God, you are my God. I will forever give you praise, honor, and celebrate your name, God of the past, present, and who is to come. God, you are my God. I will forever bless your name, honor and celebrate your praise, God of the past, the present, and
Since they sounded so good as a choir, you want to get them in on the vamp?
I don't know. Do y'all know that song? The verse part? Y'all know it? Oh thou. Let me see what you got. Oh thou, and go. Oh thou who. I don't know if they know this. Cause it wasn't a single, so I didn't know if they knew that. I knew they knew When the Saints probably. I don't know if everybody really sings this as much. Huh?
You know the vamp?
Pardon?
The vamp?
Well, I think the vamp just sings that.
Yeah.
I want to do more than just God, oh God. Y'all, that's just, y'all got that word out. It would have been more so that. But what I will say about that song is, I wrote that song originally for Joanne Rosario. I don't know if you guys know who she is. So they asked me if I had a song for her, and I said, let me think about it and let me live with what I thought. And one day I remember thinking, well, Joanne went through a time where she lost her voice and she couldn't sing. She was very, very depressed about it. She had something happen and she had to go on vocals, couldn't sing at all. And I just thought about, for someone who was so musical and every fiber of her so musical, to not be able to sing, if I was in her place, how would I lift myself? And I thought, oh, thou who knowest my beginning, thou who ordained my way, you know. I started writing it from her eyes. So that song is written from her eyes. And when I used to have to write something for somebody, I try to put myself in their space and think of how I would speak through them, about them, to help them. That's why one of the special verses says, through my transition, he held my position. It's because even though she couldn't sing, she was destined to sing. God saved her spot until her voice came back. That's why that lyric says that specifically, and why it goes, I will forever, God you are. So you need to know that during transition times, if you were called to do something, God will hold your position until it's time for you to get back, because it is yours. It is yours. He will hold it. I always say this, he will hold it together until you get it together. That's what that song is saying. That's what the body of that song means. And it was just to thank God for being God, to remind me that, yo, I knew you before you even came here. I set this up for you, and no matter what you go through, I called you to do this. It's gonna be there for you to get back to what I sent you here to do. If we could hold on to that thought, we wouldn't worry as much, and we wouldn't be so worried about somebody taking our place or getting something that God has ordained to be ours. You don't have to ever worry about what's yours is really yours. You don't have to be mad at nobody, jealous at nobody else, try to get, I'm always baffled by people who try to block people, because you really can't block people. Anything that you can block from them wasn't theirs anyway. You're just fooling yourself, So that song is written from that perspective, and it was me writing the story I watched Joanne Rosario go through at that moment. Then I re-recorded it with Tri-City, and I had Erica singing. And if you guys want to see the storytelling that I talked about, go watch Tri-City's finale video, and you will see what's in her eyes to do that. And then when we did DL30, I was inviting some guests, and one of my singers, Latrice Pace, said, I want to get somebody to come and sing God. And she said, please get Natalie Grant. And I said, oh, I love Natalie, we're good friends. And I said, let me see if she'll do it. So on the DL30, Natalie Grant came and sang it and put her perspective on the song. So yeah, thank you for doing that. It was excellent. Y'all give her a beautiful job, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So that's kind of where that story comes from. Again, I keep going back to story. I just think, people follow you when you give them an authentic story, and it touches people in a different way. Any song that has moved people, it really comes from a place of storytelling, and then we add notes, and then we add our stylings and stuff to it. But if you start with stylings and just notes, we miss the story. It doesn't move us the same way. You want to know, and this is going to be some old school Pentecostal stuff, because I grew up in an old school Pentecostal church. But you know what? I've been in musicals where some of the best singers got up and sang with all the chops, and then an old mother with a raggedy voice got up and wiped the place out. She sang from story. They sang from skill set. That's the difference. I know we say anointing too, but when you get into that story and it's real, that's when the anointing shows up. You understand what I'm saying? That's what would be the difference of that. And I learned that long time ago, and even whether it's in gospel, whether it's in pop, whether it's in musical theater, the one thing that I do know, if you don't have voice and you got story, it's going to move people regardless. So story shows up even when when you're not even in your voice. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm always want to push creative people, vocalists. Don't forget about the story when you're trying to think so much about voices and notes. And I can see you thinking. I can see your head thinking, going like, let me see which note I can do next. Because you completely leave story and you're in your head trying to make sure you get this note right, that note right, let me kind of do that. I'm not saying that there's anything bad about that. There's times from that. If you say, okay, this is going to be an improv moment, I'm going to play around, then you can be in your head and do notes. But if you get ready to tell me a story, I need you to stay in story. You understand what I'm saying? There's not anything bad about being that way, but just know when there's a time to do that versus this. And this is, not, I'm around some great singers. They're all in my camp. Riffs, I've grown up with that. North Carolina is a riff country. That just always has been that way. It's always been filled with riffy singers. It just has. Not a choir state, but if you want people who can riff, it's been that way since I was a little kid. I'm always trying to get them to stay in story and then add that thing to it. So that's what that's about.
In terms of helping folks to find the story, you are a super producer. Any artist I could name, many of them you worked with on their albums. Well, one of the things that most impressed me was supervising the music for the Clark Sisters movie on the Lifetime movie. They're going to be here in April, by the way.
Oh, good, yeah.
I'm curious if you could talk about that process as much as it's feasible to share, but also what you were thinking about in terms of capturing the sound, reanimating the sound of the songs, also the ensemble that sang on the movie,
yeah.
all those kinds of things.
Yeah. Okay, so the Clark Sisters movie. Everybody saw the Clark Sisters movie, or if you haven't, go try to catch it. It's playing on Hulu now too. So if you haven't seen it, you should go see it. Okay, so first of all, I have been the ultimate Clark Sister fan for oh my God, you guys don't know, I probably heard them when I was in high school. One of my singers introduced me to them, and I was like, what an odd sound, because it was so lazy and so drilly. Then I went who's on the organ? And my singer said, oh, it's their sister Twinkie. And I was like, oh my God, the organ is so thick and rich. And I just started being obsessed with it. And when I was in school in Cincinnati, went to Cincinnati Conservatory. When I was there, anytime I got a chance to do gospel music, or teach a group of mine something, I would always teach them a Twinkie song, and they would come in and say, oh God, please, we know we ain't gonna knock another Clark Sister song, because back in that day, you taught people songs. People wasn't writing their own music. We learned what was on the radio. So they were always, in college, my friends, and two of them I'm still close with to this day, was like, you get ready to teach us another Clark Sister song? And I was like, yeah, this one is bad. I love the way Twinkie had that way of writing odd. She had that way of odd titles and odd concepts, so I was in. Studying them all those years like that and being obsessed, I never knew it would prep me to be able to literally do a movie on them. I had no idea, you guys, it just was so interesting. But when that opportunity came up, I was obsessive, so I know exactly what to do. So when the casting director and the director told me who they were casting, I knew Kiera. Of course, I knew Kiera. I knew Shalea, but I knew Shalea because Shalea worked with David Foster, and she mostly sang Whitney stuff. And I told the casting director, I said, Shalea is really amazing and she's really smart. I know she's smart. I said, but her voice is very clean for Dorinda. And I said, it wouldn't be my choice, but let me talk to her because I know she's smart. So I called her a month before they started filming, and I started talking to her. I said, you are going to have to find Dorinda's character in your voice. She has a character voice. It's not a voice, it's a character voice. And I know character voices because I love them. I have them in my choir. I desire them because it changes the texture of my group when I have a voice like Arnetta Merle Crooms, which is a character voice, or a LaJune Thompson that's got like a character thing, or a Blanche McAllister that's a character voice. It's not like a voice, it's like a character. I learned that process from Andre Crouch because he had Tata Vegas. She had a character voice. And I said, you got to find that thing of Dorinda's voice. So she went to study. And once we got to Canada where we worked, I worked with her some more, and one day in the studio, it clicked, and she looked at me, I said, that's it. And from then on, she had it, because I knew she was smart. But it happened, we were in the studio, and she was singing the alto part of the Clark Sister thing, and I said, no, do it again. You gotta say this word like this, you gotta place it like this. And when it clicked in, she looked at me, and I said, that's it. And when she got it, Shalea is phenomenal, by the way. She got it, you know. So in putting all of that together, I told casting, I said, okay, this is what you gotta have. I'm gonna put Kiara on the top. It's gonna be work her a lot on top because she can get there, but she doesn't sit there. But I know she would give me Karen. I said, on the tenor, you got Christina. She sings kind of high. I think visually and image and energy, she's gonna give me Twinkie. I'm not sure vocally, but when I got in the studio, I said, Twinkie sings straight tone. It's gotta have this low mid-range on it, and you gotta sing straight on every note. It's straight tone. I said, the Clark Sisters is Twinkie's voice times 4. It's not all 4 Clark Sisters. The Clark Sisters is Twinkie's voice. She wrote it, she heard it, and then she made them all sing her as equal parts. That's what you have with the Clark Sisters. I understand this recipe. I don't know if everybody does, but I do. And I said, and so now we got the tenor. We got Shalea understanding what to do with Dorinda. Then we got Kiara, who is genetically going to sound like Karen. Then we got Angela. Angela is a Broadway girl who's phenomenal, and she's a soprano. She was playing Jackie, who she did a phenomenal job acting Jackie. Like she just did. I used her a lot in the studio because she was kind of a chameleon. The one magic with the Clark Sisters is this. Jackie brings in this cushion to the Clark Sisters' point that Karen and Twinkie has, and it glues it together. So I made her sing everything mimicking Jackie with the air, the cushion to glue that together. That's the recipe of that. When we did it the first time, and they played it back for the executives, they thought I was playing, the cast themselves thought I was playing the Clark Sisters. And the director said, well, we want to hear what they did. And I said, that's them. And they looked and said, that's us? I was like, yes, it's y'all. It was like, oh my God. So it was the recipe, understanding the sonic recipe. I also told the directors that the Clark Sisters, like I said, is a character, but another part of that cast is the organ. The organ is a character in the Clark Sisters' journey. And it's a certain sound that Twinkie, and I knew that because I was obsessed. So I made them track the organ in Memphis with 4 Leslies like back in the day and Mason Temple. So we would get that sound, and it would sound like it was Twinkie, not some, I knew. And so once we did all of that and it came together, they just looked at me and it was like, even the Clark Sisters said, did you get Twinkie to do some overdubs? And I was like, no, that's Christina the whole time. I coached her and made her sing exactly like that. She said, it was like, I thought Twinkie came in to help. I was like, no, so just the cast. So if you see the movie, no Clark Sisters sang on it. That's all the cast, absolutely. And they had never sang together ever. They didn't even know each other. So the executives were quite fascinated. I had so little time to do that, you guys. I had to teach them to sing like the Clark Sisters in a week and record like 12 songs. We did it all. If you understand anything about filming, in order to not go over budget, you have to meet deadlines. So they said, you got 7 days to do this, you got 2 days to do this, everything got to be in 10 days. I was determined not to fail. I turned everything in 2 days early. They couldn't believe it because they just knew I was going to fail because it was really not even fair to try to get that done in that short amount of time, but we did, and it came out great. So I'm really proud of that project. I'm really, really proud of it. That's it.
What do you mean when you call yourself a creative?
Well, I think I'm one who creates, but I honestly think we are all creatives. We just have to tap into it. I think that if I call myself a child of God, I am most like the Creator when I'm creating. So if you call yourself a child of God and you are in His image and you got His DNA, what did He do? He spoke the world into existence. He created it. You're going to be most like the Creator when you are creating. So when I say I'm a creative, that means that I am a child of God. I'm always in my head creating because I realize that I'm most like my Father, who is the Creator, when I am creating. That was a good answer, wasn't it?
That was a good answer. That was a good answer. It almost brings us full circle, because it's almost like you're saying creating is worship.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? If it's image work, right? How I'm inhabiting the image, right?
Yeah, I have this concept, and you guys, I live in my head. I'm always having concepts. I have this concept. It's a little out there, but it's a good concept, and it's what you just said. You're creating when you're worshiping. See, in church, specifically the black church, and I don't know if the white church too, but when we say things like the glory was here, we tend to feel like there was a presence in the room and it gave us chills and we cried and hands was up. That is one thing too, but what we have to also understand that God's glory is His attributes, His characteristics in the earth. So when you see like this beautiful building at Yale that someone that God created built it, that's His glory too, because that's His characteristics coming through them. When we see like the ocean and the skylines, and you go and you see the Sistine Chapel and you go like, how could someone do this? It's God's glory showing up in the earth. I think that when we are authentic with our creative expression, that's when we see God's glory. And when you see it for real, whether it's in a service or when someone like Michael Jordan did when he used to play and did something amazing on the court, you just go, wow. I think God's true glory makes you go, wow. So I have this thing called the glory wow, where it is when you see it, it makes you go, wow. And I feel like we've gotten away from it because we want to be so part of mediocrity that we don't do the odd things to bring the wow back. But I'm always saying you need to get back to the glory wow, and then we'll have artists like Da Vinci and Michelangelo and the Michael Jordans and the Michael Jacksons and the Princes and the Clark sisters and the Vanessa Bells and the Kimber, like that's the wow thing. But it's because we are seeing this next level, this next realm kind of artistic expression show up in the earth, that if you try to format it and put it in something, you're not going to get that. So I'm always telling people, be yourself. If you hear it like this, you do it that way, because you'll bring the wow. And so I'm just saying, y'all bring the wow back, you know? That's what a wow factor is to me. It's God's glory being expressed in the earth, His characteristics. And when I see like the artwork of Michelangelo, I hear the voice of Whitney Houston, it's all an expression of God, and it makes me go, wow.
One of the symbols in Scripture of the glory of God is a burning bush that Moses encounters in Exodus, gets called by it, and Moses wants to know, who should I say sent me, right, when I go back to Egypt. And this is another place where, as in Jehovah, when I heard the song as a kid, I'm from Rocky Mount, by the way.
You're from
North
Rocky
Carolina in the
Mount, really?
house.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, oh.
Do you sing?
Huh?
You sing?
No, I'm mostly a keyboardist and composer.
Okay.
And preacher, anyway. So, but when I heard the song as a kid, I was like, oh, so that's how Exodus sounds. I am God. Right? Again, in this sort of dramatic, the story of it gave a sense of this might actually be what happened at the burning bush, or it might as well be. And of course, this is a part of Bible studies, the CD from '95. That is thoroughly dramatic, right? All the songs together are advancing this argument, right? Bible stories, in some ways you could say it's some ways, like the signature. If you were going to be described as a story composer, the album called Bible Stories gives us a great window into who you are. And so I would add you to that list of the wow, the wow invokers. And so we're going to actually end our conversation with I Am God. But before Dr. Preston Wilson comes with an ensemble, I wonder if you talk about that song, about
Okay.
I Am God,
I'm God.
about that project, about how it fits into your broader catalog. And maybe even give us a sense of what you're up to now, what's coming next from Donald Lawrence.
Okay, I Am God. You guys, this is gonna be a funny story. When I was younger, I tended to write revelational, but beyond my years. So I didn't really know what I was writing. I just wrote, and I grew into it. I think I Am God is one of those songs. I wrote it as I heard it. I think I wrote it when I was, like in my mid to late 20s, because it was about 5 or 6 years old when we recorded. I didn't write it, but I wrote it like way before that. So it was probably about 5 or 6 years old by the time we recorded it. So I think it was much older than I was, and I didn't really know what I was saying. I was just hearing what I wrote. And as you talk about the story of the burning bush, and when Moses asked God, "Who should I say sent me?" There is in some texts, not maybe the Torah, where before he heard that, he heard the wind. And I don't know if anybody has read this before, but it's some research that I did. He heard the wind, and getting to I Am God, it was really understanding the name of God and who he is. And I'm gonna get to I Am God, but on Goshen, which connects to that, there's a song called YHWH, and it's a phonetic that you can't really say, but if you understand phonetics, if you were to break it up, the YH would be, and the WH would be. So when he asked God what was his name, he heard air. And so it really sparked me to understand that God's name could be the sound of air. And not only just the sound of air, is inhale, is exhale. It's the first thing that happens to you when you're born. They slap you and you do what? You inhale, exhale. When you die, you take your last. So all throughout life, we are calling God's name. That keeps us alive. And the minute that we stop, that's it. Our circulation we are continue, and it made me understand, let everything that hath breath praise the Lord. That's not a commandment, that's a statement. Everything that's breathing is always praising the Lord. You understand what I'm saying? I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise can. It's because I gotta breathe. I'm always inhaling and exhaling. So when we get to the I Am God part, it was God speaking to us in first person, and I thought it was really unique to write a song where God was just talking through us the whole time in first person. It wasn't me talking, it wasn't me talking to you, it was God talking to all of us. Now that's the deep part of that song, and that all of that. So that's that, and I taught it to Arnetta. And the funny thing about it is this: I just wrote that song on a whim. It wasn't like I was somewhere in a closet, like down trying. I just wrote on a whim. I was like, good. I was like, I gotta go do a workshop. I need a song. I heard this song. I grabbed Arnetta and I said, hey, I got this song. This is how I want you to sing it. Because I usually teach my singers exactly how I want them to sing it. I'm bold enough to write ad-libs for Karen Clark Sheard, just so y'all know. I tell her exactly, we go in the studio. If it's a live album, I make Karen go in the studio and track what she's gonna sing. And I will do my best to make her stick to exactly what we wrote that she's gonna sing, because I think that sets her up to stay in story. Karen is the opposite of most singers. When you get nervous, most people stop singing. When she gets nervous, she sings more. She's the reverse. So I will always get her to do that. Anyway, I got Arnetta for this workshop that we were supposed to do, and I just taught it and said, okay, we're gonna do this song. And I taught it to this choir in Gastonia. We went somewhere and sang it. By the time we got back home, people were singing it everywhere. I was like, I can't believe people like that song like that. And then my good friend, Pastor Sigmund Moriarty is here. I taught it at a Dorset convention too. Before I know it, everybody was singing the song. I said, Arnetta, can you believe, we actually laughed. Said, I can't believe people love that song like that. I mean, I thought it was okay, but I didn't think it was like, I didn't think it was like When Sunday Comes. I just thought it was good. So after so many people kept singing, I said, I think we need to record this, Arnetta. And we did, and since then, it's, I guess, probably one of the most favorite songs of mine. And people love that song. And they're starting to sing it a whole lot more even now. And I'm just always surprised. But message-wise, it was just, I just heard God talking to us in first person. And I would do that sometimes. It would chill me out. It would make me stop. I'm obsessive, and sometimes creative people are. We think about things all the time. I have to listen. I have to leave the TV on at night so my brain shuts down. I can't sleep in the quiet because my head is much louder than the TV. At least if the TV is on one story, then I'll stick to that one story. But because my head have 20 stories going on at the same time, I won't be able to sleep. So I think it was me writing to calm my head down about what's in the future, what's next, what's that. God speaking to me, letting me know that I was there in the beginning, I'll be there in the end. I got you the whole time. I'm all seeing, all knowing. I'm God. And not only that, I'm with you at all times, because the minute you stop saying my name, you're not going to be on this side anymore. You got to be in that. I say even based on this, that means even those who don't believe in God still got to praise you because they need air to breathe. So even the atheists got to call your name to breathe if your name is God, if your name is the air. And it's 4 Hebrew consonants that don't have a sound. They can't be spoken. You have to sound it. And it's sound air. So I always say God's name, I am, YHWH, is the sound of my breathing. And that's it. And that's the overview of I Am God for the Bible Stories album, which again was my theatrical back. And let me tell you something else, and I'm done with this. Tri-City's first album is a songwriter's point of view, which is probably the choir's favorite project because it was groundbreaking, it was new, it was a new sound. It was me just being me. I didn't feel like that album got as much pub, and it made me go in and feel like, okay, maybe I needed to simplify things more. And I call myself simplifying. That's why probably Bible Stories is not my favorite CD, only because I felt like I was conforming to industry to fit. And it was some songs I don't think I would have done had I not done that. So I call myself simplifying, but in order to at least make me be invested into it, I created the stories around it to keep my innovativeness going. So it was me simplifying the song, but at least let me put a concept record together so that I'm not just doing something. But after that, I made sure I didn't do that ever again. Now, it is usually, people say that's my favorite CD, and okay, it is not our favorite CD, but I'm not saying it's bad, but I know what I went through at that particular time. I was trying to fit into an industry formula, and then I said I would never do it again. And the funny thing about it is, and I was young, I'm much younger now then, and so it's the kind of things that, okay, well, if I do this, maybe I'll win the awards and all of that. That album was probably nominated for 12 Stellars. It didn't win not a one. And I said, see, I did what everybody want. I'm just gonna do me. And the next album was TC4.com. So I just push creatives, just be yourself. Don't let an industry dictate your creativity. It just will suck the life out of you, and you will find yourself getting to a place to where you don't even trust your own creativity. So if you didn't get anything else out of this, Donald Lawrence is telling you, trust what God is giving you, and don't let the industry dictate to you where you're gonna go with your art. That's Am I going to be in the way? Am I going to be in the way right here? Oh, okay.
I am God.
I'll be there when you get